So I've been trying to get into fighting games lately. I'm not good at them, at all, but I appreciate the depth and effort brought into each entry in this rather diverse genre. As such, I've tried out the Samurai Shodown series, and I do indeed like it. But then I thought to bring it into the realm of verses, since it is rarely, if ever, talked about in that medium. Thus, this list has been capped off. I will rearrange the list into alphabetical order once I am done, so don't expect the shifts in tone to be that jarring. Some matches are better than others, but I am trying to find a matchup for each character. Not their best, just a matchup in general. I'll also give off my own thoughts on the match if I feel it needs/deserves it. A big rule to note, in this case, is 2 entries per series. Mortal Kombat gets 2 reps at most, Street Fighter the same, yada yada yada. Not every series will get 2 reps, it's just that some of them will be more used than others. With all that out the way, let's get on to the list. Amakusa vs. Rao. 2 young men who had their lives turned around due to their rebellions, causing a massive shift in their lives. Separated from their families for different reasons, their final acts would be a testament to the final stand, which they proclaim to have no regrets as they live their lives for the greater good. Rao should win, but it is indeed a meh idea. Andrew vs. Soldier, men who are patriotic about their countries and will do anything to help them. Soldier wins because he's an actual character. What a way to start. Angelica vs. Speed of Sound Sonic, deadly assassins who somewhat betray an organization they are inclined to join in for one reason or another, all the while being deadly. Probably a closer verdict than several other matchups here, but the OPM representation should be too fast and too strong regardless. Azra vs. Scorpion. I asked someone on Discord to give me a match for Azra. They recommended Scorpion, don't know the connections, and I don't care. Basara Kubikiri vs. Azura. Dudes who fucking died, but felt so much anger when people messed with their living female counterpart that they rose from their graves just to spite some bitches. Again, just an idea, but Azura Ws are blessed at the least. Black Hawk vs. Chief Thunder. Native Americans who aim to avenge their fallen family member when they are old and skilled enough to do so. Killer Instinct gets a W, so... Brute versus the muggers that mugged Darkseid. Criminals that represent other criminals. Brute had fuck all to go off with. Being the matchup where it's a DC match, though, is indeed funny. Cham Cham vs. Rami-chan, and by extension, Paku Paku and Pochi. 2 female animal-themed women who work to retrieve a stolen artifact that has imported them alongside their animal counterpart. This is so niche and honestly would most likely not occur. I mean, some fights are unlikely to happen compared to other opponents as, well, they have, but this would be most unique in this case. It's probably one of the closer verdicts as well, given what I recall for both sides. Charlotte vs. Weast. Fencing-bladed women who yearn to help their worlds purge the evil from them, all the while having some sass with them. No, I'm not getting an appropriate picture for this. Charlotte more than likely wins, so that's good. Claude vs. Tarzan. Men who survived shipwrecks as babies and were taken in by an outside force that allowed them to deal with deadly creatures and intruders. Sad to see Tarzan lose, but there's not much to go off here. Deku and Dekuina vs. Magician. Puppet-like vessels meant to serve a greater evil that were then vanquished. Again, a match that exists. Just assume that the Samurai Shodown character wins here. Demon Gao vs. the Devil from Cuphead. Demonic rulers of a hellish landscape. That's it. Just a match. Depending on what you believe, either one can win, but Demon Gao has my vote unfortunately. Draco vs. Guido Mista. Skill common who are the acquaintances of a yellow-haired boy who wishes to distribute justice throughout their lands. Debatable given how JoJo's scaling is much more insane in speed, but has a lower AP to boot. A meh idea, though. Earthquake vs. Roadhog. Big fat men who wield chains in various ways with other alternative weapons that they use primarily alongside their thick hides. Earthquake is far too strong and tough, and I doubt Rhodey can scale to the microsecond speed stuff. Still, an idea that needs a chain tug-of-war scene to be implemented. Ensha vs. Spec. Slightly demonic presences who help other evil entities pursue their target while maintaining their path of bloodshed and destruction, even if a few can make out what they are saying. Ensha wins, but with how little in terms of variety I can choose from, oh well. Evil Amakusa vs. Cars. 2 evil entities who were sealed away for many years before interrupting force brings them back to life, with their souls rising to rebuild their lost empire and species, only to lose to the protagonists in the end. Sure, why not? Cars probably wins by virtue of being faster, smarter, and having ways around the Christian's durability. Gyra Caffeine versus Raphael. Two heavy-hitting characters who let their anger control them initially, putting a slight bit of distrust into their mentors. However, they manage to mostly resolve their issues and help stop evil whenever they can, being a more silent aid to the world than anticipated with their loud mouths. A meh idea, I suppose, but an interesting one. Raphael does win though, virtue of being far more experienced and, well, in general, and scaling to faster speeds. Gal Ford versus Yuri, two well-meaning swordsmen who seek to deliver justice in their own ways, instilling lessons from warriors who left previous impacts on them. They also happen to fight alongside their canine companions. It's a bona fide W for Yuri, but credit to where it's due, not that bad of idea in hindsight, especially when compared to later ones. You will understand. Gandhara vs. Nomu, evil monsters created by a villain to cause panic and destruction. Bad idea. Bad. Nomu also should win. Gao vs. Jubei from BlazBlue. Mentors to the main protagonist in an entry of a series who are heroes of heroes and regarded with dignity and pride, working to instill peace and order in their worlds through wisdom and lessons. Jubei stomps since scaling to the 6 heroes is sensible since he indeed wanted them. But whatever. Gyros vs. Gilius Thunderhead, old-time Vikings who fight for their families and friends. Sure, why not? Gilius probably dies, unfortunately. Gario vs. Big Band, big muscly men of fighting games who are intimidating at first sight, yet kind of passionate at heart. A match that exists. Unfortunately, Big Band does indeed lose. Ganan Shurianu vs. Boomer from Skylanders. Trolls. That's it. What, you expect a thesis for every idea? Genjiro Kibagami vs. Shishio Makoto. Assassins for hire who yearn to overthrow the main protagonists, swordsmen who live in a moment and are scarred for their past interactions, one with a back injury and one with burned wounds. Shishio's intelligence makes this a close call to be sure, and his arsenal and abilities are a surefire way to keep it engaging. Not spoiling the verdict, however, since it actually is pretty fairly close, alongside the fact that I am doing this fight. Haha. Golba vs. Rudolf von Stroheim. Jew generals who lead the way in adding to their numbers to overwhelm the enemy with force in quantity and quality. Rudolf should lose this one, which is mega sad as Golba sucks as a character. Half-shaded Shiki vs. corrupted Jill Valentine, versions of characters that are overtaken by their darker versions and work towards the villain's goals. Jill dies due, to their bout sadness, but oh well. Hanma Yagyu vs. Gumbo. Two red-skinned men who are pleasant to be around and needed to turn off a machine, or machines, that went haywire. Gumbo probably wins, hilariously enough, but this will never happen. I would love for this fight to happen more than others, though. It would just be insane, goofy fun all around. Hanzo Hattori vs. Strider Hiryu, two top-of-the-line assassins in the ranks who weaponize their skills of stealth, combat, and arsenals to get the drop on their opponents. They have contributed to the victory of good against the evils of the world, remaining stoic and calm throughout the face of adversity. Low-key one of the better ideas, and you could argue either one winning. Strider, however, should win by virtue of higher scaling in general. Haomaru vs. Mitsurugi. Both are aspiring swordsmen who seek to become strong and powerful by challenging stronger opponents with a samurai type of code of honor, respect, and dignity. They are also mainstays in their franchises due to their recognizable branding and characterization. This is one of the best ideas on this list, but it is a Mitsurugi win. Howell is far faster, but City vs. Island isn't a particularly good game to play, especially when his opponent has a wider arsenal up their sleeves and can outlast Rage Explosion. Still, a pretty damn good matchup, if I do say so myself. And comparing it to the list. Hikayaku vs. Cooper the Quick. Male characters who are forced to run fast to beat the competition as they have valuables they don't want to lose. Bad idea, but pretty funny in concept. Eiga Ninja vs. Foot Soldier. Grunts of their worlds. No. Just no. Iroha vs. Sakia from Toho. Maids who serve someone else but assist the good guys when available to keep their masters safe. Not that good of an idea, but it will suffice. Toho is consistently universal, which makes it for a win for the maid. Okay, but honestly, it depends heavily on what you believe. Sakia has to do the dangerous action behavior during the fight, no exceptions. Jay versus Afro Samurai, black swordsmen who work to retrieve a valuable item for themselves as they inherit personal value above all else. Jack versus Afro exists already, so not that good in retrospect. Gen Iman Hamafusta versus Undyne. Veteran warriors with sharpened blades and they love girls, so they help the main character out after all, cause why not? Undyne is a far more interesting character, so she wins by virtue of existing. Jinbei Sugamata versus Soldier 76, retired dudes who are skilled warriors for fighting against evil. Mr. Incredible comes in and gets a cheeky W, I'll tell you what. Jubei Yagyu from Samurai Shodown versus Cliff Anderson. Fair old men who wield their blades in impressive impeccability, helping to push and motivate younger versions of protagonists to advance them in time for war and battle. Probably the matchup where other alternatives aren't that good, so it's rare to say, but it's probably their best. Cliff drops Jubei off an actual cliff when regarding stats, but the potential for respective banner and skilled swordplay makes me want this a good bit. Jushiro Sakaki versus Jumpman, two constructive individuals who have to save an important damsel in distress while dealing with enemies, ultimately concluding their battle with a non-fatal ending to set aside their differences. DK comes in and claps them both TBH. Kawakiri Hama versus Metal Overlord, robots who go against their creator wishes and become a threat, forcing them to stop them at whatever cost. A match that exists, but Metal wins, so that's neato for fans of Sonic. Kazuki Kazama vs. L-Sword, two red-haired fiery swordker protagonists who go after a female associate in a sense to help them along their quest. It's actually pretty good as a matchup, but what makes it one of the best ones is that it's that one of them got one of the most up-in-the-air verdicts. L-Sword's stats aren't as exactly canon or concrete as I would say, and Samurai Shodown is also pretty flimsy depending on what you believe. It could honestly go either way, and I haven't looked into it. I actually want this one more than a lot of the others. Kim Hae Ryong versus Copen the Luminous Avenger IX, men who look for an elusive target that capture/kill them, being mysterious in their own goals and past. Copen wins, so yay. Kiryan versus Don Flamenco, romantic bullfighters. That's it. No, it's not good at all. Kuroko versus Smash Bros. Announcer, people who immediately stay off the side of the battlefield and declare the match to begin the fight. Smash Bros. Probably has a better voice actor, not gonna lie, Wiz. Kayoshiro Senryo versus Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat. Movie stars who use their fame and awaiting audience to push them through the toughest of evils, which they honestly get in over their heads about. Johnny has better opponents, and as far as I know, he does win moderately well. Liu Yufei versus Jiraiya. That name sucks. Cool old men who try to help vanquish evil for their own purposes. This either see their students grow to succeed or atone for their sins. Alright, but Jiraiya does win. Neat. Mikoto versus Pops, well-meaning characters who are ashamed of one aspect of themselves, or, well, something like that. They want to overthrow their evil or side to let someone live, either to let herself live, or Pops to see his friend lives on. Pops mega stomps, but they wouldn't fight because Rigby versus, well, Jake and Finn versus Mordecai would basically already take up that slot. Mina Majikina versus Huntsman Sniper. Arrow spam. Fuck these guys. Minto versus Hat Kid, small orphan girls who befriend basically everyone and wish to get away where they succeed. Excessive noted child abuse, but the banter and action can be adorable. My headcanon is HK wins because she is cuter in my opinion. Mizuki Tashojin versus Gruntilda, evil bitches who steal others' souls and energy to power themselves back to full glory to terrorize the lands. Not that good, but I believe Grunty can take the W. You'll see why. Mugenji versus Mordu, characters who are brown and like to kill. Basic bitches get basic matches. Nakaruru versus Banjo-Kazooie, nature-loving protagonists who have an aviary hand along the way, stopping the manipulative, destructive path of magicians in their world. One of the better ideas, and it can go either way. Buffs can be applied to Banjo, making him react to miniature explosions, and town level scaling, so he can clear the physical gap easier. Probably my bias talking, though, as BK is one of my favorite games of all time. He probably wins now. Ninehall Sager versus Hellboy, burly men with a big gauntlet on their arm who sacrifice themselves for the worlds. Miro is better, no argument. Nicotine Caffeine versus Splinter, wise old warriors who uptrain a future generation of fighters to be respectable fighters with skill. Splinter versus Shifu is much better, especially since Thailand can be referenced, but whatevs. Splinter should win. Oboro versus Omni-Man, somewhat nice appearances on the outside hide their criminal mindsets that have them go against the government and create their own army/weapon after they were pushed out of their original tribe. Omni-Man has far better, but the old man is already dead in canon. Oboro's Amazon vs. Zombies from Plants vs. Zombies. Follow a smart, small guy who plans to overthrow the world and its rules. Basic bitches get Ocha, Maro, Karakure vs. Amengo. Oddball fighting game characters, nothing more, nothing less. Amengo probably wins. Rampo vs. Carol Capel. Two young boys who want giant brute/monsters. Carol's scary theory should allow him to win. Rasetsu Maru vs. Evil Ryu. Darktoon versions of beloved fighting game characters/protagonists. Street Fighter buffs go wee! Rara vs. Dark Pit. Darktoon doppelgangers of entities who preserve their fight for what is right in nature, the world, and all above, who learn to coexist and help their goody two-shoes side. Like before, it's just a matchup for each character, and the shadow ideas aren't that good in all honesty. DP stomps though, so that's neat. Rimuru vs. Riolu. Small blue-toned descendants related to family members who contribute to the cycle of nature in their own way. A meh idea overall, but depending on what you buy, it could be close. Or not. Rank of Yoshino vs. Red Pucket. Red-themed little girls who change to become more open-minded and passionate in general by the end of their journeys, sent away to train when their families would suffer a tragedy. Thus, they would uphold their family traditions. Thank you, Borther, on Discord, for this is actually a pretty good idea. Rinka probably wins, so there's that. Samurai vs. Royal Guard. Loyal protectors of a throne or something. I'll know composite Royal Guard because real-life equivalents aren't fun here. Sankiro Yoruzuzo vs. Bonkers. Purple-themed camel-wielding sub-bosses. Pretty bonkers if I say so myself. Saya vs. Nora. Dipshit, shut up, screw you. If you get the joke, I salute you. Saishiro Kuki vs. Samurai Jack. Swordsmen who are out of their natural element and come off as rude and uncultured at first, but are kind and wonderful deep down. Jack wins more solid because someone decided that there should be more evidence that allows him to be fucking Otis. So sad. Oh well. Shadow Azura vs. Imposter. I found you, faker! Shiki from Samshad vs. Shiki from Chewy. Their original ideas were about getting a body for different personal reasons, but afterwards they live for themselves. Shiki from Huey has my vote, and Shaft should know why. Shikusa Gozen vs. Heihachi. Final bosses of fighting games who have to deal with demons that force protagonists to take them down for one reason or another, who eventually pass away in peace after some reconciliation. Geese already got cooked, we don't need another old man win for right now. Shizumaru Hizame vs. Kenshin Himura. Two brown-haired young men who have a feared name and push others away from them. However, a family comes to accept them after a perilous journey, and Chubbo and Chum pursue them as they are soon forced to stay in a dojo with a sword wielder who happens to be a teacher for one reason or another. I'm pretty sure this is one of the most thematic matches, especially since Shizumaru was basically influenced by Kenshin, but I feel like Kenshin does indeed lose. Sogetsu Kazama vs. Sailor Mercury. Blue-haired people associated with good who can control water and fight against the evils of their worlds. Sure, why not? Mercury stomps unless you buy low multiversal Samshad, which is controversial in my opinion. Not a good idea, but it works, I suppose. Tsuchiya vs. Medusa from Soul Eater. Two evil characters who live and fight with impractical methods, risk gauntlets and magic, against the forces of good to create offspring that become tools of destruction for them and their family. An idea, but shame Medusa stomps via the highball Soul Eater, outclassing everything except blow-mouthy stuff, which I already said is iffy at best. Suzu vs. Elsa. Princesses! Ship incident! Young tragedy! Incidents about their past! Look, I should have excluded Samurai Sen from this list. Oh well, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Taizan Morozumi vs. Smeargle. Art brushes. Simple as that. Takechiyo vs. Otis. Added a box, but fuck it. That's Sudia for you. Farm characters who were on a farm but journeyed outward to help stop evil influence or something. Well, limitations made this list hard, what can I say? Funnily enough, Otis wins because he can scale to a continental level burp, so that's neat. Tam Tam vs. MCU Spider-Man. Two man-animal masked heroes of a town/city who failed to guard an important stone from the forces of evil and were transformed for their failures. Tam had nothing else. Leave me alone. Tashran Mao vs. Composite Clown. Make up a face and don't like to be ignored. Clown stomps. Tomakuki vs. Tai Long, characters who are confident in their ability and can be quite arrogant in their own ways, but find it worth an opponents who can indeed stand up against them for a good long time. Also, something trying to defeat someone who wronged them. Not a good match, but meh. Ukyo vs. Toki. As Cydude said, two well-meaning, legendary, and kind-hearted warriors who help to fight the good guys, despite their illnesses drawing their lives closer and closer to their graves. Toki should AP stomp and has ways around even low multi-Ukyo through durability negation, but I do like what could be done with this somber tone of a match. This is actually the match that kinda kicked off this idea, not gonna lie, Doomstick. Walter vs. Father from Bed Boys. Powerful knights who grow suspicious about something and go to check it out, if only for the glory of their homeland. Father stomps in quality, so that's funny. Wan Fu vs. Conkelder, the right-hand man of characters who wield a giant red orb thing around their neck/face, nose, or bead necklace, and fight with pillars of heavy materials. I only include this for gits and shiggles. Sassy Izanagi vs. Jason Voorhees, blood-offering men who wield a deadly machete. Jason not only fights Michael Myers instead, he also wins this match by being a mega chad. Yashimaru Kurama vs. Robin Hood, stealthy boys who hate capitalism and fight against it in the shadows and on the side, even if they're the main protagonist. Hood probably dies, and that makes me sad. Yoshitora Takugawa vs. Enkisk, young warriors who have slightly less conventional methods of fighting and are brash and youthful, yet good-hearted and kind in nature. As a matchup, Enkisk stomps, but whatever. Yokai Kusarigado vs. Ragyo Kirien, awful, ugly parents that did something unforgivable to their children. Bad, especially since Rags wins. Yuda vs. Gogeta, two fusers, one fusion. Double the fun this time. Yuga the Destroyer vs. Crota, genderless weapons of destruction that are also symbolized by alien-like designs. Chrono winning his poggers, not gonna lie with. Yumeji Korakochi vs. Dan Motherfucking Tabiki, children of respected mentors and fighting figures who had a falling out with their original mentors and are kicked out despite having good and noble hearts above all else. Ponytails and all the tragedies of their families and all push them forward to win the fight against evil forces, which they manage to succeed even if they lose to a noble warrior down the line. Ukyo and Ryo. The fact that this is not only closer in origins compared to other matches here, but also verdict-wise depending on what you use for them, is hilarious. And Sankara vs. Shrek. Two characters who are branded as monsters for their past behaviors and looks, only to find a girl who manages to convince them to stop being that monster for their approval. Again, just a matchup, but it would be sad if Shrek got wasted on this instead of Mike and Sully. And that was the entire list. I should have checked beforehand how many characters there were, because this took me a long time to make. Oh well, beggars can't be choosers. Do you agree with this list? Have any other ideas for these characters? Comment down below what your opinions on these are, I'll appreciate it a lot. I had fun making this, it was a fresh new experience for someone like me. So, until next time, I bid you adieu.